Assalamu alaikum wa barakatuh. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillah wa salatu wassalamu ala rasulillah wa wala. Rabbi shrah li sadri wa yassir li amri wa hlul 'uqdatan min lisani yafqahu qawli wa sallallahu ala sayyidina Muhammadin wa alihi wa sallam. La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. Assalamu alaikum wa barakatuh. So in this video, which I hope will actually be short, I want to briefly talk about why do women wear hijab? This is a common question. Okay? Very common question. Why do women cover their hair, and so on? Well, first thing I want to say is if you go to Canada, the women there, even if they're an atheist, a lot of them cover their hair, and a lot of the men do too. So we know it's not bad to cover your hair. Go to the Eskimos, a lot of them are covering their heads. Well, it's cold. People cover their heads, as if it's like, we need to stop acting like it's a bad thing to cover your head. It's not. You do it too if it's cold, right? So, it's not a bad thing. Culturally, in a lot of non-Muslim societies, women would also wear all kinds of head coverings. You can watch old movies from the 1920s. You'll see random American women wearing headscarves. It was just a normal dress. A lot of women back then, like even just my mom's generation, a lot more women went through like Catholic schools and stuff, and some of them got used to wearing headscarves. Just 60, 70 years ago, a lot of women did that in American society on occasion. Maybe not every day, all day, but on occasion. And so a lot of the nuns still do. Even Christian women in certain Arab societies, they choose to wear it. Jewish women have the same command as well. If you look at Jewish women, they also cover their hair. Women, the halakha, which is the Jewish term for Sharia, Jews have a halakha. It's always more strict than it's almost always more strict actually than the Sharia, by the way. If you study Sharia and you study halakha, you notice that halakha is always more strict, especially on women. Women have a lot less rights in Judaism than in Islam. Any criticism I've ever heard about Islam is always more true about Judaism than Islam, and both are generally not true, and not fully understood, generally. Although halakha can be pretty strict on women. For example, during their cycles, they have to sleep in a different room from their husbands. If they're like an Orthodox or ultra-Orthodox who actually live the law fully or almost fully, most Jews don't live the halakha fully because they think it's too strict. And that's another story. But point being, stop thinking it's bad. It's as if it's a bad thing. No, it's a good thing. This is good. Don't call good evil and evil good. That's a big problem with this time. And this is something that the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ warned us about. All of mankind, whoever you are, whatever your religion is, be very careful with what you believe is good and what you believe is not good, because things are starting to get flipped upside down. This is the time in human existence, in the timeline of the human being between now and the ending of this world and the Day of Judgment. Yes, this world will end. There will be a Day of Judgment. It's a time when reality is flipped upside down. Okay, a lot of that is from the Enlightenment. It began in the Enlightenment, people like David Hume and such. But really, Europe never, unless you have Islam, you don't have the truth. Unless you have Islam, you don't have the truth. Only Muslims have the truth, so you're always going to be running into weird ideas and falsehoods until you're Muslim. And you're going to have problems with understandings because you're running into other philosophies that are generally have all kinds of falsehoods in them and lead you to falsehood. A lot of them. Some of them can start leading you to Islam if you get the good parts and leave the bad parts of them. So as Muslims, we always take the good and leave the bad. We generally don't fully reject an entire tradition, but we take the good and leave the bad. And it takes Islamic education to even be able to do that and be able to recognize good and evil, because Islam, the Quran, the Islamic sources, the Hadith, these give you the ability to differentiate between good and evil. So just be very careful with what you say is good and what you say is evil, because when you die, you're going to find out anyways. You can't just pretend like you're going to forever live in a falsehood. No, eventually all falsehood is gone. When this world is gone, the Day of Judgment, there's no falsehood. It's only truth. It's only God and His truth. And all the people of falsehood, they will know who they are. They'll know what they believe. That's it. So you might as well take it now and not later, because either way you're going to take it. You take it in a good state, you take it in a bad state. Take it in a good state. Take it now. That's what I'm telling you. You're a human being. You're going to die. You're going to be judged. You want the truth now. You don't want to find out you were false when you die. You want to be true now and live a life of truth and die in a good state and go to heaven. You don't want to reject the truth and die in a bad state and a'udhu billah, go to hell. That's the worst thing. There's nothing worse than that. Because when you think about it, everything that happens is created by God. The worst thing that God can ever give a human being is hell. There's literally nothing in this world worse than that. There's nothing any human being can even possibly experience in this world that's as bad as the fire. There's nothing worse than that. Okay, so fear God and not the creation. Don't fear your neighbors. Oh, they're going to judge me if I do the right thing. Like, okay, do the right thing, and then if enough people start doing it, it'll become normal again. That's what you want. You want good to be normal. You want falsehood to be normal. When you're surrounded with falsehood, then you feel weird when you do the right thing. Well, do it anyways, okay? Because you know that's the right thing to do, and that's how you get the most good and bring good to others. Okay, so anyway, so why do women wear hijab? So first of all, hijab means to cover your awrah, your nakedness. Awrah means it means the parts of your body that you can't show in public, basically, and you can't show somebody who's like not in your family or not a doctor who necessarily needs to see that part or something of that sort, right? That's called the awrah. It's the part. It's generally translated as your nakedness. That's how it's translated. It means the parts God commanded us to cover in public. Okay? So men have an awrah. It's from their belly button to their knees. And there's differences of opinion on whether or not it includes the belly button or includes the knees. Between the four schools, follow your school of thought. It will tell you what is and what isn't. So just follow that, and God, inshallah, will be pleased with you. Okay, so the thing about these madhabs of fiqh, the schools of Islamic jurisprudence, is that you pick a school, you follow it, and God is pleased with you for doing that. These people, Allah chose them to interpret His law. You follow it, you're doing it right. You're doing it well. And that's what you're judged by, is that school that you're picking. Okay, so you're not sinning by picking a school and doing it. Oh, the Malikis say I can uncover my knees. Now I'm going to be punished because maybe they were wrong. And that's not true. No, that's not true at all. It's halal for you to uncover your knees if you're Maliki. That's what the law says, according to that madhab. So recommend covering your knees out of caution, though. It's good to be cautious in case you uncover something above that. So it's good to not even wear shorts at all. If you're a Muslim male, I recommend that you never wear shorts. That's my advice to you. So there's the law, which is a minimum, and there's things like adab, there's caution, there's wisdom. I think the wisest thing is to never wear shorts. That's what I think. Okay? At least something that goes down to a good way down your shin, and cover a good amount of skin. It's good to have a sense of modesty even as a male. It's not that males are exempt from being modest. You also need to be modest. Men and women need haya, need modesty. And one of the Sahaba, the companions of the Prophet ﷺ, who had some of the most haya, he was known for having a lot of haya, this modesty in his character, in his demeanor, his shyness and things, was Uthman ibn Affan, radiallahu anhu. And guess what? He married 2 of the daughters of the Prophet ﷺ. Can you imagine that? They call him Dhu Norain, the possessor of 2 lights. He's the only human being to ever marry 2 daughters of any prophet. So he is one of the greatest human beings to walk this earth who is not a prophet. He's one of the greatest of the non-prophet human beings. He's the 3rd rightly guided caliph. So, just think about that. Allah gave 2 of the Prophet's daughters to him. What a huge responsibility and a huge blessing. And he's the one who's known for having a lot of haya. So, maybe there's a relation there, maybe not. But, mashallah, so he's very blessed. He's very mubarak. And you will see him on the Day of Judgment. I hope, because he'll be a huge light and a blessing to see and be around, as are all the Sahaba and all of the prophets, especially the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ. We all want to be with him on the Day of Judgment. You want to stand with him. That's where the big blessings are. Alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah, ni'mat al-Islam. So, another is that the women's awrah. So the women's awrah is everything but their hands and face, and some say the bottoms of their feet. Okay, so a lot of women wear socks, some don't, so there's a difference of opinion there. Most scholars would recommend that you wear socks, but anyways, let's get to the question. About women covering their hair, which is what most talk about, but they also need to cover their arms, for example, their forearms, and so on. Now, sometimes some of it may come uncovered when they're working. No one goes around judging them or anything, being so nitpicky that it becomes difficult. You always make things easy on people, it can happen to anybody. A guy could bend over and cover his awrah, you just look away. You don't look at these things, you don't pay attention to them, you don't look at people's faults, you ignore that, you try to only look at the good. Ideally, you want to be in a state where you're only looking at good. and you ignore evil and you completely shun it. And if you need to, you try to get rid of it. If it's wise for you to take that action. But if you see any kind of evil or mistakes, you always look away. That's the way of the human being. That's what we're meant to do. We look away from bad things. We look away from other people's faults. We're not ever supposed to be fault finders. Okay, we're supposed to be good finders. It's called husn al-dhan billah. Okay, you want to have a good opinion of God, and you want to have a good opinion, especially of the Muslims, who are God's servants and chosen by Him to be His servants. So have a good opinion of Allah and a good opinion of Allah's servants. So women, yes, they have to cover their hair, and this is a good thing. And they especially should not be uncovering their legs way up the thigh like they do nowadays, because some French guy or something decided to make a type of shorts and market them to women and tell them this is good for you. It's satanic. No, it's not. It's evil. You think that you're going to get good things out of that? It's pure evil. There's never good that will come out of uncovering your awrah in public. It's completely irrational. It's illogical. It's against the law. God said it's forbidden. Don't do it ever. It's very simple. And one thing too is sometimes our grandparents told us these things. Don't do that. And when our children were like, oh, wow, he's just this, he's that, he's just old, he's not with the times, we live in the postmodern era where we, do nasty things or something, I don't know. And then we look back and we're like, wow, yeah, he or she was oftentimes right to an extent. Sometimes they were wrong, but a lot of times there's basic wisdom, especially when they commanded us to do things that are modest, to believe in God. Some basic things they told us to do: get married before you have intimate relations with the opposite gender. These types of things, they seem basic, but they're part of the human fitrah, the natural disposition upon which you were created and created for. Now, for some people, they corrupt their fitrah to different levels. It's part of your fitrah to cover your awrah in public. So let's contextualize it to the video. It's part of your fitrah, your natural disposition, to feel shy when your awrah is uncovered. If you ever worked in pediatrics, like if you're in healthcare, you'll notice that children do not ever want to show their parts to a doctor. They're not comfortable with that. Some of them won't even do it at all, even if they had to have like a hernia check for sports or something. I literally watched that happen, by the way. And I was just an intern. I should have spoken up. I would have been like, anyways, especially because there's a woman in the room, a strange woman, and he did not want to do that. And the kid's he's not a Muslim kid. He was like he's probably like at least nominally Christian because he was Latino, but most Latinos are still Christians, so I don't think they're atheists. But I was in the USA, and this kid just would not let them check him, and he cried to the point he was like, "Do not touch me," and it was like, yeah, that's his fitrah. That's his fitrah. You should respect that, and you shouldn't have a crowd of people around him. Of course, he's not going to uncover himself around a crowd of people. I stepped out, and I was like, I'm not going to do that to this kid. And you see one male of the same gender, with the parent in the room, to very quickly do it, and that's it, and tell them, okay, explain it to him, like, hey, I'm checking you for hernias. This is what it looks like. This is what you can look for if you're going to do sports. This is a hernia, and this is blah, blah, blah. This is why you have to check it, it's dangerous if you play a sport and you have a hernia, and blah, blah, blah. You can explain these things to a kid. A lot of times they don't say anything. They just do these things, and they don't respect the fitrah of the human being, partly because these non-Muslims, they don't have any concept of it at all anymore. They're not taught about it. They don't teach about it, and even in Catholic schools and stuff, they don't teach about modesty anymore. It's all become like taboo or something to do the right thing, Only the Muslims are the only ones left with any sense of like decency or something. It seems like, I don't know, people need to get educated. These are things that 100 years ago people were taught about and talked about. Like how to be modest, how to have good etiquette. The generations before us taught us these things, taught their children these things, even among the non-Muslims. But nowadays, at least in the West, the non-Muslims don't talk about that. Now, if you go to a place like Egypt, the Christians there, I'm sure they talk to their kids about these things. I'm sure in Lebanon and all the non-Muslims among the Arabs, they're generally very modest people, actually. And I think they're much better Christians. The Christians I met in Egypt were some of the best Christians, I think. And honestly, a lot of the Western Christians could probably learn from them. So, if you go to Africa, if you go to places where they haven't corrupted their fitrah outside of the West, even among the non-Muslims, you'll probably find a lot of this modesty still, and before they're corrupted by Western culture. Like a lot of a lot of parts of Asia are getting corrupted very quickly by Western culture, sadly. It's reject the evil in it, please. There's good there, a little bit. There's a lot of evil. Be very careful with it. There's a lot of falsehood they try to teach you, and they try to sell you, both literally and metaphorically by sell. Because they also want to sell you their products, and some of that includes selling you their culture first. When God commands us, so again, there's the illah and the hikmah. Like I said in the other video, there's the illah and the hikmah. The reason why we cover our awrah is because God commanded us to. That's the illah. The illah is the reason why. The hikmah is the wisdom. So the reason why is God commanded us to. The hikmah, there's a lot of hikmah. You don't want to attract strangers. That's not good. That's from Satan. It's a satanic thought that you want to attract somebody who's not your spouse. Even as a man or a woman. I don't want to attract anybody. I don't want to have that kind of a relationship or energy at all whatsoever. I want to be 100% platonic with everybody except my spouse. And even then, only at the right times, not in public, And that's how you're supposed to be. That's what the natural human disposition is. That's what's natural to all of us, regardless of your culture. That's what's natural to all of us. It's the right thing. It's what's correct. Okay? And anybody who tells you otherwise, they're lying to you, and they're selling you a zero, what they call it, like a zero-sum game or something. They're selling you zero, basically, where you become a loser, and you lose. You don't win doing evil or the wrong things or doing things Satan wants you to do. Satan is your enemy. He wants you to ruin yourself. He lies to you and tells you to do things that even he knows they're all wrong. He tells you to do things that he knows are wrong. That's the thing. He knows they're wrong. And even on the day of judgment, he'll say, even the ones who committed associating partners with God, and he's the one who told them to do it. In those cases, even he will reject it and be like, I reject this person. I only fear God. Even he will say that. Satan will say that. So don't go that way. He just wanted to destroy you because he's jealous and he hates human beings. He just hates you because of who you are. He's racist, basically. He's like the first racist. So don't think anything he does is rational. It's not. He does things that are irrational. The things God tells you to do, they're rational. They're with what's called your intellect, the aql. Your aql. The more you obey God and learn about Him and learn about His way, the stronger your aql will get. And the more you hang around people who are like that, like Muslim scholars, the stronger your aql will get. Especially saintly people. The scarf a woman wears is called a khimar. Okay, and Allah commanded us in the Quran, commanded women in the Quran to cover, and you can read the tafsir on that, the exegesis, and then there's hadith about it as well, that a woman can only uncover her face and hands in public and around strangers, and so it goes back to the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, what he told women to do, and then the interpretations of all the scholars by ijma', by consensus. So there's no debate over this. Anybody who tells you, women, that they want to change the law or something and say, the law has changed in this century, or everyone before us was wrong, or whatever, I have my own interpretation and women don't need to wear a khimar and don't need to cover their hair in public, they are a liar. They're a liar, and that this is false, and they're spreading innovation, and they're spreading falsehood. I don't know if this is something that could cause them to leave Islam, but it's a severe twisting of the law. It's completely false. Do not ever believe them, and do not listen to them, and they should probably not even be your friend, because they're a person of falsehood until they leave that stuff. So be really careful with that, especially in this day and age where there's so much falsehood going around. Do not change God's law. That's not going to help you. That's not going to help your society. That's not going to help anybody ever. Disobeying God, that's how you bring evil into the world, not good. All good comes from God. Obeying Him is where you get good. That's where the good comes from. The trials and tribulations and difficulties, they come from the creation. So the more we turn away from God, the more evil you're going to see in the world, because that's literally what you're doing, is you're bringing in evil. That's what evil is. Disobeying God is evil. So point being, this is a good thing. And when Europeans tell you this is oppressive, women are being oppressed, we need to free those Muslim women from the shackles of their men who tell them to cover their hair. Number one, they voluntarily cover their hair. Even the ones who are unmarried, they still uncover their hair. Even if they're a single woman living alone, who can completely determine what she wants to do in her life without any influence from any outside force. Ask them, they'll tell you, yeah, I cover my hair because God commanded me to. That's the illah. God commanded me to. Now the hikmah is vast. You can talk for hours about the hikmah, all the different wisdoms of covering your awrah. It's natural to you. It's the best way. Ask any man. He'll tell you, yeah, I prefer to live in a society where women cover themselves. I don't want to see that. I don't want it in my vision. I don't want to see it. I want to be able to see that. I want to walk in public free of distraction. And I don't want to have to lower my gaze to such a dramatic extent that I can't even look down and not see a woman's body. This is satanic. It's just Satan corrupting us and corrupting our society and corrupting the public sphere. That's all it is. That's what the West does. They sold out to these satanic. They sold part of their culture to Satan. They started believing him and doing what he told them to do. God doesn't tell you to do that. He tells you to cover yourself, have some modesty. If you're going to do marketing, that's permissible. It's not haram to market products, but do so in a way that is halal. Don't abuse women. A lot of it came from these psychologists who had these terrible ideas. They promoted genocide and defended all kinds of evil things. Just look up Edward Bernays and his biography. It's terrible what he did. He got women to start smoking cigarettes. There's no good in that. So we need to be careful who we're following, what culture we're taking, and be more careful about what we're listening to, and start listening to the good and ignoring the evil. Don't listen to evil. Listen to good. Listen to people who tell you to do good things. Listen to Muslim scholars. Look at good things and look away from evil things. That's what we need to be doing. And purifying our public sphere and ourselves, our hearts, and coming to the good. That's what we need to do. So there's only good in the Sharia, in the law. Believe that. It's true. And you know it's true. And in your heart is a doorway to your soul. Your own soul will tell you, yeah, this is true. I want to hear more about Allah, His Quran, the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, Islam. Your soul loves that. It loves that light. It loves that knowledge. It always wants more. Every human being, whoever lived, would love to hear more about this. They love these things. Whether it's maybe not from me. There's other people who are better than me. But here, sorry for a very long video. I thought it'd be 2 minutes. It's 20 minutes. Okay, I'll call it out. I'll end it here. Inshallah, I'll try to post an article under this video where you can learn more about hijab from like Seeker's Guidance or another good source where you can read about it. Inshallah. Assalamu alaikum.